What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Happy Tuesday. Nice little Monday victory last night, so I'm feeling pretty good. Sheets had a nice little run on Fanduel. Yeah, we've been in business since the All-Star break, guys. We've been clicking. It seems like a lot of the people in the Discord have had some hits too. Some of the other guys who've watched the show have said thanks. They've had some 20x returns. So we feel like we're doing really good right now. Sheets, I'm happy with it. What are your thoughts about last night? And then we'll talk about maybe my lineup and
yeah, we're gonna pull up your lineup right now. And there's one thing I wanted to discuss. I want to make sure that we discuss this at some point today. I'll throw it out there right now. There's something that you mentioned we were going over in the live stream. So, and we'll talk about Taylor Horton Tucker in a second. We talked about this being like a really good like price pivot off of what we agreed was like kind of a shitty chalk and Rodney Magruder, right? So the point is that whenever we talk about like projections and who rates this or whatever, I want everybody to realize that doesn't mean that's who we're playing in our GPP lineups, and we ran into that because I was like going over my stuff. Oh my God, my Rodney Magruder, whoever else I had, was like my top, it's like a top rated projected guy. And then I'm like, well, I'm not playing him. He's terrible chalk. And you're like, well, how can you say that? It's like the top rated guy. Just because like a guy projects like as a good point per dollar play doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to play him. And it certainly doesn't mean that we're going to play him at high ownership. It certainly doesn't mean we're going to play him in GPPs where you have to beat a zillion people at high ownership.
Right.
So like for example, like just take Jaylen Horton Tucker as an example. Like if you told me you ran this 100 times, who would get more points, Jaylen Tucker or Magruder? I'd probably say Magruder, right? But when we talked about Tucker, I'm like, okay, Tucker looks to be maybe just a little bit worse, but has maybe some upside and 3% ownership. That makes a difference, and that's where it's really important to know what you're looking at when we're showing you stuff, when we're talking about stuff. Like even when you go to any site, you see projections. Again, just because somebody has a good median projection does not make it a good GPP play.
Right, and I'm with you. At the same time, I would be lying if I said I didn't have 20 some odd percent Magruder. So what I did was the way the slate was yesterday. We were going over it. It was one of the classic. We have the best spend ups ever, and we have absolutely no value that we feel consistently good about. I mean, I think the best value of the night ended up being this Reggie Bullock play.
Yeah.
And you said, well, why Bullock at this time? And I was saying, well, all those things that are true for the Knicks are also true for Bullock getting extra minutes and extra run if the game stays close. Not to mention that it was a wonderful matchup for Bullock, better than anybody. I mean, against Brooklyn, you're going to give up open threes. Of course, he doesn't have to hit 5 threes and be so hot. But Bullock ended up being my preferred guy over Magruder, with Horton Tucker and KCP right behind them. And you mentioned KCP when we were going live, and
right.
To be honest, that was a great call too. I mean, he only ended up playing 21 minutes because of the blowout, but KCP was on his way to having a monster. He had 26 fantasy points in 21 minutes. He was on his way to potentially being the Horton Tucker of the slate, and he was 5% owned. Even Campazzo, who we thought was going to be chalky, ended up only 8% owned. Now he didn't do much. He put up 12 fantasy points. But what I did was I rotated those guys. I ended up with about 20% Horton Tucker. I ended up with 25% Magruder, 30% Bullock, 15% Campazzo, and then I ended up with 13% of this Drew Eubanks, who I mentioned a few times.
Yes,
was really that he really just opened everything else up too by paying the minimum cost, and you also knew he wasn't going to be owned because of people's love for centers in the slate. Valanciunas, who had projected to be fairly owned, and was great point brought up in chat about his playing the back-to-backs, and I've mentioned his struggles before, and those are all staying true. I liked the matchup so much for him. I ended up playing Valanciunas only about 15%, where I was going to play him like 35%. Not because of just what the guy said, but just sort of thinking about the back-to-back. And sure enough, not only did he go off and they ended up getting blown out, so he lost his last minutes, but even if he gets those, he would have been below his season average of minutes, even in a game where he was going nuts, because they were definitely limiting him somewhat on the back-to-back against Phoenix, who was playing a little bit faster. So long story short, I mean, the night started off with me being really pissed off about the Brooklyn New York game. We almost got that overtime that I ended up in my 777 that finished like 18th or something, and like that, or 20th, I think it was, in the big one. Or what was the 888 or 666, whatever it was on DraftKings. And in that lineup, I had 5 players from that game between the Knicks and Brooklyn. And that overtime would have absolutely, I mean, I don't know if there's any way I could have lost, because I could have ended up 20th anyway, and I had all the guys, including Alec Burks, who was closing and finally coming on at the end. So basically dividing up the when you have speculative value, but the pay-ups are so elite. Yeah. And I don't mean just paying all the way up. I mean, sure, Valanciunas would show up in this lineup, but being able to pay for Julius Randle, trying to get the Harden connection over there, I actually ended up with only about 25-30% quickly. And it's not like he was a great play. He didn't end up having a big game for his price on DraftKings. He was 5,600. He put up 28. That's not ideal, but he did fit this lineup and it made it work. And I went for the little game stack here. You can see with the 3 Knicks and Harden on the other side. And even though I preferred Giannis, I ended up going this way. And the truth is, I couldn't have gotten Giannis into this lineup because of the position eligibility. So I could have had even more points. And I was sort of, hitting myself. And then I realized that there was no way to get Giannis into this lineup. There's absolutely no way to do it. Good night. Happy to do it. It wasn't my best score of the night, oddly enough.
Of course not. I mean,
not of course not. I mean, it was. I didn't play I only played.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a 4-entry max. You have less players, and you're trying to do the logical thing. But I tend to play them a little bit more like people play large fields in certain senses, where I'll take a shot on a Eubanks, who actually was in the smaller one. I got to double check, but I think he was 3 times this ownership. He had 6%. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, it was really the day of the second half, because even in my FanDuel lineup, looking at it, I got some big second halves out of people that looked invisible. I had Chris Paul.
Yep.
Who had 2 fantasy points at halftime, I think.
Chris Paul and Brogdon both started really slow.
He ended up with 40.
Yeah.
I had Luka with Kawhi, and Kawhi had nothing.
And then he went nuts.
And then who we caught? I caught it on FanDuel at the 3,800, and it wasn't the end of the world, but we got 7% owned Jay Crowder. He got 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, he looked good too. And he probably would have gotten more if the game stayed close. So
yeah, so I got some good second half mojo yesterday, to say the least.
Yeah, it was great. And the thing is, THT, it's funny. I got lucky with the blowout there, but I got unlucky with the blowout with Valanciunas. So you could say it either way.
Right.
But the truth is, THT also had a lot to do with the blowout. He was running the offense, and he at both times when the Lakers put a huge run on in the first half and then in the second half, THT was a big part of the reason why. So, that's the kind of run you love. You get the guy who stays on the court and leads to the blowout. So it was wonderful from that perspective. Nice to have a good night, and ready to keep it going.
Yeah. So let's again. I want to just build a new. I want to open up DraftKings. I want to be good. I want to build a NBA. I want a new lineup. So we're gonna go. We're gonna just enter, and then create new lineup. Okay. All right. All right. So you want to just get started?
Yeah, let's get started, and we'll get to the game later. But it's how often the guys you coach AAU are going to be the chalk of the slate. You coach
it was the other day also.
Yeah. Well, was he the chalk that day?
He was 70% owned in a 2-game.
Oh, it was the 2-gamer, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is the first big slate, I guess, that I've been a part of where he's been the mega chalk. We'll get over to that. But, one thing that's interesting about tonight, so it's 7:30 Eastern, guys, just to rimind you.
Yes.
I will be around at 6:30 Eastern for sure. Sheets, I don't know about you.
No, I'm good.
Good. Okay, so we got me and Sheets both around. I honestly think the slate in many ways doesn't really start until 8 unless we hear about news coming up.
And then to throw it out there, by the way, again, we're going to run back that coaching thing for next week with the golf tomorrow. So if you guys want to come in and pick who, again, I thought about statistically, and that to ask people to come up with literally my 3 top owned guys, nearly impossible. Yeah. So you just got to come up with my top one. Top owned guy. It's going to be a guy I lock in. It's going to be a guy I bet to win also. And if there is some kind of tie, like a couple people get it, then what we're going to do is we're going to run a tiebreaker Wednesday night during the live chat, where maybe I'll have you guys pick who my second guy is or something like that. We'll have a duel between whoever tiebreaker. And good news is, unfortunately for me, Bobby's been doing much better, and he has a big win. So hopefully you'll have to do the coaching part of it instead of me. So we'll see.
I don't mind. plenty of experience with that part of stuff, so I'm happy to do it anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's get into the to this game. I mean, look, I said the slate starts really at 8. I think there's guys, because this slate is not. Look, it's the exact opposite of last night. We don't have the superstars that are like locks to score 60, 70 fantasy points or in that range.
Nope.
And everybody is like, there are guys I have in play in this game that I'm just going to mention, but I don't think that they're high level plays necessarily. Rudy Gobert would be my favorite play in this whole game. It's weird because they just gave him a huge price increase. We're going from a guy we were paying in the low 7s for not long ago. He did just put up 74 fantasy points against Golden State and 28 rebounds. And I think that the message for me with Gobert that I'm really trying to come around to this year, but even in bad matchups, I still play him sometimes because he's sort of perpetually underpriced. Well, he's not underpriced anymore, but what he is a guy who in close games and against a team with a weak front line, and while Boston, sure, they're a better rebounding team than Golden State, who Gobert just killed, I can make a pretty good case here that if this game, stays close and he won't play those 32 minutes, he might play 36. And there is a ton of rebound upside for him in this game. Another 20 rebound game wouldn't surprise me. Gobert reminds me tonight, like when the games are going to be close against a team like Boston, I think we can take advantage. And actually we used Capella a couple times like this, but Gobert reminds me of Capella a little bit and I feel just so sure about him getting just an immense amount of rebounds that if he scores, 15 points or 10 real life points, maybe gets his normal few blocks, that I think we're looking at a guy who could easily be in the 50s tonight. So he's my favorite play, but I don't see him as a priority. I think there's other better plays later in the slate. They're not ideal, but he and Conley would be the first two guys I looked at. How about you?
I think Clarkson's a fair price on FanDuel at 5,500.
Okay.
On the Utah side, but I agree with you that that Utah side of it is not anything special. On the Boston side, once again on FanDuel, Jaylen Brown's a fair price. Nothing amazing, but he's fine. One guy on DraftKings who not always that excited, but actually you seem to do pretty well whenever you play him. So maybe whatever. And we usually play him on FanDuel, but on DraftKings he's really cheap. Is Daniel Tice at 4,200. So he would be the one guy that I would look to on Boston.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the minutes sort of fluctuating lately. There's been a couple blowouts and some situations and foul trouble that sort of led to Robert Williams has been so incredible that I don't feel comfortable really using other Boston bigs. Well, it's crazy. Robert Williams is going to play like just basically 20 minutes no matter what happens. But I mean, this guy is putting up his fantasy points per minute are just out of control. And it's between he, Thompson, and Tice all being around. While I wouldn't be surprised if Tice or Thompson got there, Thompson got there in 18 minutes the other day. It just feels like they're really rotating these guys. But I kind of like the idea of, it's not a bad idea with a long shot Tice. I just think that there is good value on the slate. So do we need to reach for a guy?
He's like my 19th rated point
exactly
guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a big deal, but
go ahead, Sheets.
That was it. I mean, just if you had to pick someone from the game, that's who I would go. But I'm probably not going to get there.
Yeah, I think that my favorite. I mean, I hear you on Jaylen Brown. It's pretty demoralizing to see how lack of fantasy productive he's been since.
You were on that pretty early, by the way. You noticed the lack of assists pretty early in the game, actually.
Yeah, especially it just goes down so much between Tatum and Kemba, who are literally setting everything up. Tatum won't seem like a good play, but he actually is. I mean, he belongs in the same category. We're talking about a bunch of guys in the 9K range, and Tatum certainly belongs in that category. But I think the best play of all of them, if you're going to take a shot, again, I'm more of a fan of waiting for later. But if you're going to play somebody, and these guys are all in play, it's only 7 games tonight, and that would be Kemba Walker, who, due to blowouts and some other things, hasn't put up the monster stealing game lately. But I think at 7,100, he's also been good in tough matchups. If you beat the Jazz, you want to do it from the outside. That suits Kemba, obviously. So I like this game because it's going to be competitive, but I don't know how much fantasy interest there is. And I don't think we're back quite at the point yet where we want to play Marcus Smart.
Yeah, game's probably a toss.
Yeah, for the most part, I think it is. I just wanted to mention a few guys who I might be sprinkling in a little bit because I might get a bunch of entries. We got that $100 tournament today with.
Oh yeah, what is that? So that's what I did a shell in that. Oh, it's just like $100. Okay.
But it's like that's the big one today. You know
What's the max? What's the max? Oh, it's like the 88. You mean?
No, yeah, but you can max in. Well, it's, yeah, the 88 is never for 100K. It's like they're treating it like it's the 888. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay. How many
100K for first.
entries is like max for people?
It's 133.
And you think all those guys are going to put in 133? You think?
Every top guy will, for sure.
Really?
They do every time. I've never seen.
I guess that's only 10,000. I mean, it's not like okay.
Yeah. The ones that are weird, like, are the ones where, you know, they're paying like the 2,500 that's coming up next week, which I'm really excited about.
Okay.
$1 million for first, but you have to put up 75. That you can put up 33 entries, or whatever.
You know what I got to do? I'm gonna play a couple of Saturdays to that one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you should. I really think that's, you know, it's just fun to have a $1 million basketball sweat would be nice.
Right. Right.
I do have a little bit of interest in this next game. Why don't you start us off though with the Cleveland Miami side of things? Yeah,
on DraftKings, I did not have too much interest in it actually. So I noticed the first thing I noticed was the FanDuel price on Butler. They made it up. They made up for all the They all made up for all the underpricing in like one fell swoop. He's like over 11K.
Yep.
And no, I'm not playing him. He's playing like an 11K player, but I'm still not playing him. So I really didn't get to much of this. So why don't you take this game away? The only thing I had Larry Nance at 4,700.
I love Larry Nance. That's my long and short.
Okay.
Most of my stuff in this game. I think Larry Nance, without Kevin Love in the lineup today, we haven't really seen him. And then he's getting the minutes back, and all of the stuff is going his direction. He's just not a 4,700 price player. And if we really think he can play around 30 minutes, which I have no reason to think he wouldn't. His first game back, he played 28. Then he played 26. I mean, both in not ideal. I guess the New Orleans matchup would be good for him normally, but he was just coming back from injury. But but the other matchup was terrible. This is not a great matchup, but it's 4,700 for Larry Nance at full minutes at 30 minutes without the other guys to get in his way. So he's my guy. He's the guy I've got the most interested in on this side. I don't know. There's a part of me that's tempted to take a shot with Garland or Sexton, even though it's not a great matchup, but I think it's just the wrong. I just don't think I need to. And I do like Butler some still on DraftKings at 9,800. Bam coming back should hurt a little bit, but I mean, the guy's been over 56 games in a row, over 60 twice in that span. We don't have a lot of obvious guys. I have him rated below some of the other 9K guys, but he's definitely one of them. And I think that Bam should play his minutes tonight, which just makes him semi-appealing. But this is not a pretty game environment or anything. You can always, you know, if you're multi-entering, get pieces of hero. But I don't think that I'm going to go crazy with this. It's mostly going to be maybe like 15 to 20% Butler, maybe a little bit higher. And then maybe like 25% Nance or something like that is where I'm at.
Yep. Okay. I mean, again, that's really why I have is Larry Nance in this game.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that feel like cross-offs tonight, so I'm sort of talking more about some of the in-between ones.
Yeah, so this next game could be interesting. I am presuming, well, should I presume that? So Capella is still questionable. And obviously that's going to be a really big deal, whether he plays or not. And it's a big deal for more for Gallinari and Collins than anybody else, but you know, it's a big deal for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I feel as though we got to certainly wait for that, but I think that it might be time for our old friend to put up a good game, Bogdanovic. I think at 4K, I think it's fair. Fair, whatever. I think he could be 5,500, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that they're giving him a chance to play, and he just hasn't really been playing all that well. But I'll take a shot against the team that's kind of not that good. You know what I mean? So I think I'll take a shot with him. And again, I'll wait on Collins. I'll wait on Capella being out before going back to Collins and Gallinari with the idea being I would go with Collins more regardless, I think, because even if Capella's in, I think Collins is a little safer than Gallinari. One thing I noticed, by the way, watching Gallinari play the 5 versus Capella, he's actually bigger and kind of fatter than I thought he was.
He's a monster of a human being. He's a huge
I didn't even, when I saw him, it's so funny. When I saw him out there, like setting the pick and rolls, whatever, I'm like, oh my God, Danilo's not even playing. They got some other big fat white guy in there. I don't even know who it is, right? And it was Gallinari. It was like the funniest thing. So that's the deal I have with Atlanta. I'm going to wait on the Capella news before I take a big stand on Collins. I guess Trey's really annoyed me in the last game. He not only he didn't do anything, he didn't even try to do anything. Yeah. It was a little bizarre in a way. But against Houston, I think he should be able to have a good game. I mean, I don't know. So if Capella's out, even though, what is he, 10-2?
Yeah.
Pretty expensive, but I guess I'll try to find the 600 for Lillard, I suppose. But
careful, McCollum's back.
Is he really?
Yeah. Probably limited. I think he won't be for many minutes, but
then he's gonna, I don't know about that. So but in any case, so Trey at 10-2, honestly, I'd rather spend $1,200 less and play Levine if you want to know the truth. But we'll get to that in a minute. So that's about it from the Atlanta side. And on Houston, I'm not 100% sold on Kevin Porter Jr. at this price with Oladipo playing. I think that Oladipo is turning into quite the ball hog. I think in this situation. I had both. I had Porter and Tate in the last game, and they both did fine, well enough. But every time, like Oladipo touched the ball, like it just nobody got it back. So I don't know how into Porter I am at this price. I think actually my favorite Houston guy. Boy, do I not even like anybody on Houston on DraftKings? I guess it would be Oladipo, and that's not the greatest play in the world, but it's not bad. So I guess Oladipo would be my favorite play on DraftKings on Houston.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's my favorite play on Houston as well. But I just we really should start just Houston's lost 16 in a row. They're by far the worst team in the NBA, and it's not.
Have they really lost 16 in a row?
They're the worst team. They're one of the worst teams I've ever seen in my entire life. Which
you haven't been a Knicks fan for a long time.
No, I know. But these guys are like you watch them play, and it's like they don't even have a chance.
Right.
This new influx has at least made them at least semi-competitive a little bit.
Right.
But with House and McLemore questionable, which I think are big questionable tags actually, because if they're out, I don't care. We're going right back to these guys. I don't care what the prices are. That's my personal take. I don't think 7K is too much for Porter. I do think you're right about Oladipo's usage, but I mean, you look, Porter still had 25% usage in the last game. Yeah. Still had 7 assists. He missed some shots. So I'm okay with Porter, but I'm not like it. There's certainly no part of me that's trying to say, oh, you need to play Porter on DraftKings. At the same time, I feel that way about KJ Martin. And he's going to be an awesome play on Fanduel, and he'll be he'll be a 1,000,000% owned. But no one's going to play this guy on DraftKings. And I understand it's off the bench. I know it's in blowouts, but that's what they do. They get blown out. He's 5.3. He's put up 30 or more in 3 consecutive games. So I can definitely get on board with KJ Martin if those other guys are out. And even if they're in, I still probably am going to have some pieces of him because I think they're going to give him some run. The other guy for me would be Deshaun Tate. And I mentioned all these because I do think this game is like, if somehow it does stay close, you can get a lot out of this game. And on the other side, for one thing, if Capella plays, it sucks because Okongwu is also a question, especially if Okongwu's out as well. But we have to remember, like, this is the team that gave up on Capella. It's a road game, so we should know earlier in the day whether he's going to be good to go. If Capella is good to go, I would definitely try to attack here with Capella. I would definitely use a lot of Capella.
That makes sense.
And I like Collins either way, but I like Collins better, obviously. He's like going to be hard not to play if Capella's out. And then I do have some interest in Trey because the matchup, betting on the game staying close, but probably we'll just save it for game stacks because it feels like you don't need to do it. And I agree with you about Bogdanovic, and I just don't know where he's going to end up. There's some good value, and again, not a ton to spend up for. So I don't know where I'm going to end up with him, but I do have a little bit of interest right now.
Okay. All right. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, I'll start if you want to. So I have a feeling that we are going to get lower ownership on some of these guys than we did last night, and so this would be the time I would like to go back to quickly. He shot 6 for 19 yesterday. Philly's obviously a tough matchup, but especially with Embiid out, it's not like Ben Simmons is going to be there trying to guard it quickly the whole time. It doesn't make any sense. They're going to run the offense through quickly. So I love quickly tonight, and I am very happy to go right back to Reggie Bullock with a limited number of guards. He's not necessarily going to play 43 minutes again like he did yesterday, but I did tell you he'd play the minutes yesterday, and I was pretty right about that one. 43 minutes, yikes. Or 42 minutes, I guess it is. But I do think that Bullock is going to get a boatload of minutes again. And, again, it's not going to be 40, but it'll be plenty. So those are my two favorite plays over here. And then I am very, very happy. And actually the guy who I might end up with the most of by the end of the day is a guy who struggled for most of the game. But was there on the closing lineup that almost came back and won the game last night. And that is Alec Burks.
So tell me about, I wasn't really sweating the game. I'll pull a popcorn machine up, but how did that end up going with Bullock and Burks and quickly and were all three of them in at the end?
Yep.
Okay.
They were all closing. Actually, after watching Burks, I don't even know why. I felt like if he was in the game a little bit more, they might have had a chance to win that game. He looked really good on both sides of the ball. Just in terms of his energy level. It wasn't like he was efficient or shooting well or anything, but I do really like him here. And I think that people will shy away. The matchup is better than usual for Randall, but against Philly, but I don't know if I'm going to do it on the back-to-back. I also he was borderline getting suspended. He went to attack Kyrie after the game. His teammates all held him back because Kyrie stripped him. He went up to shoot the game tying 3 that would have sent it to overtime. And Kyrie stripped him, but it didn't come loose. So he came down with the ball. They called it a travel, and he was furious. And then Kyrie was talking some shit. So he went to attack him after the game. I mean, and he bumped Jeff Green on his way. It was going to be bad, but his whole team basically grabbed him. So I'm not saying he'll be suspended. I'm just saying that keep an eye out for what the NBA says about that, because this is not the kind of time where you can be pulling those kind of antics and get away with it. So if he's out, that would open up a whole series of other things weird, RJ Barrett would become a much better play. Taj Gibson, Obi Toppin potentially even, not the prettiest names ever, but not to mention that Quickly would become nearly a lock because the usage Quickly and Burks would be somebody's going to have to score here. And without Randall, their offense just doesn't exist. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just saying that keep in mind if it does, those are the guys you'd be looking out for. And then on the Philly side, you've got one of your value plays is Tony Bradley. The issue is that they tend to split minutes between he and Howard. He tends to play a little bit less. Still feel like 20 fantasy points is very realistic. I assume that he'll start. Now, if he's not starting, I would be a little bit concerned. But he has started lately in these situations. They've kept Howard in his normal role. So that's what we have to look out for. But I do think Bradley is there with Moses Brown. I think Moses Brown will project a little bit better, but I don't think that, and probably has more upside for minutes. But Bradley certainly can do enough damage in 20 whatever minutes. So as a pivot, depending on ownership, he's a good play. And then it's going to be hard to talk me off of playing Ben Simmons in most of my lineups. That's mostly where I stand for this game. I really like Ben Simmons.
Now, so Ben Simmons is back. Bradley is starting, I presume, or?
Well, we have no idea. I mean, but that's what's happened lately. So we can just take it from that. As much as we can project a starter, it should be Bradley because they've kept Howard off the bench lately.
Yeah, I guess I like Bradley. I don't know why that seems so fishy, but I guess if he starts,
he's done it he's gotten there every time so far. Is all I'd say. He's
yeah, and he's power forward eligible
on Fanduel.
on FanDuel. So that's definitely
yeah,
definitely something to consider.
In all the starts without Embiid that Bradley's had, the starts he's had, which have been the last 5 ones, he put up 36, 25. Sorry, these are the last 4 ones. 26 and 20. All of those are obviously fine for his price. Just a matter of him versus Moses Brown, really. What are your thoughts about Simmons? Because I really think that the projections are just going to be wrong on him, and I hope that his ownership doesn't. I mean, it's going to be high. I just hope it doesn't go as high as it could be, because I have a really hard time seeing him fail here.
9K is a lot, though, isn't it?
No, not for him. He put up like 75 the last time what's his name was out, Embiid. I don't think it's a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, and then virtual like near lock status on FanDuel at 8,200. I mean, like if I'm just looking at this slate and I just see everything, I actually think there's a very reasonable chance Ben Simmons is the highest scoring player on the slate of anybody.
And yeah, and you don't like Tobias Harris too.
I mean, it's the same thing I always say. Sure, it can get there. He's going to have to shoot the ball well. As much as, sure, it's a bump to him. He's 8,500. If we're thinking 9K is a lot for Ben Simmons, what the hell are we thinking about with Tobias Harris, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
But look, it's not like I won't have any of him, because I kind of like, I like the guards for the Knicks, and I can run it back with Simmons or Harris if I want to throw Harris as a little change of pace. And he can get hot. He can get hot and put up a ceiling game in this matchup. But I don't think he's as desirable as some of the other guys who are similarly priced coming up.
So may as well get to Moses Brown Day, huh?
Yep.
So I wasn't a believer when they played over the weekend. They played over the weekend. They announced he was starting whenever. He was coming off the game where he played a bunch of minutes, and they announced he was starting and he was going to be 70% owned. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I mean, like he's really not that great. And it's 70% ownership. He's playing against Joe Val. Okay. I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? He's either going to get into foul trouble, or he's going to get run off the court or something like that. But I'll tell you, man, even though he quote unquote busted or whatever it is, like he didn't score that many fantasy points, they had him on the freaking court.
I don't think he busted. He put up 20. He's put up 24 in all the games.
Fine. But I mean, on a 2-game slate at 3, you know what I mean? At 70% ownership at 3K, I don't want that.
Okay.
I wouldn't want that. Yeah. But they really wanted him on the court. They played him like a full 10 minutes of the first quarter. You know what I mean? Like they really want him. And the thing is that for those that don't really know how he plays, he literally plays the exact same way now as he did when he was a freshman in high school. I mean, like he goes to the basket, he dunks the ball, and he blocks shots, and he gets rebounds. Like he doesn't pretend to have any range. He doesn't pretend. And actually, and this is what happened in high school. They fouled him every time he touched the ball, and he just learned to make free throws, and he doesn't miss free throws anymore either.
Wow. Well, good.
Yes. Yeah. So he's very chilled, so you have no technical foul risk. You know what I mean? Like I think he's fine. I think he's probably good chalk. And there's that. But there's a lot of value in this whole game, like in addition to, I mean, just look at drafting. In addition to Moses Brown, you also have the guy who freaking smashed to no end. And that was Pusakevsky or whatever. Yeah, he went freaking bananas. And then depending on who else plays, right? I mean, you could get Justin Jackson 3,200 being a good play. I don't know who's actually going to be in. But you got maybe Roby. I don't even know if he plays. You get Ty Jerome. He could be good value also. Kendrick Williams, and not to mention Shea at 8,800.
Why do you say you don't know if Roby plays?
He was questionable going into the last game. I think.
Okay, I think he's good. I don't have him on the list at all.
I have him as playing.
I think he was questionable the last game because it was a back-to-back. That was my guess.
But I mean, for me, I mean, then you have value, which smashed pretty nicely as kind of chalk last time. But you got Satoransky still 3,600 on Chicago, and
Right.
then you got Zach LaVine also. I think the game is just kind of a classic stack type game.
The problem I have with this situation is, one, OKC has a lot of bodies. Two, with the moves they've made, they're clearly trying to, well, they're confusing a little bit. They're trying to lose.
Okay.
So, like they're not playing Horford, like they're not playing all these guys, and they need to lose games because they don't really need to lose games. They've got a million future picks.
Don't worry.
But they've been competitive and they've been beating some teams, and they're not out of the playoff race. But the reason why they bring a guy like Poku back up. I mean, first of all, have you ever watched Poku? You'll never see a skinnier man in your life. It's actually crazy. He's like, I don't know, he's like 6'11" and he must weigh like 180 pounds or something. It's really ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure it's more than that, but it's really, really, he's really slender. And he's also, if you watch him play, you'll become transfixed a little bit. He's flashy. He's got real game. There's a lot of talk about him in NBA circles and stuff. So I actually have him as just as good a play, if not a better play, than Moses Brown. And there's more variance with his game. But he also can do a lot more than Moses Brown can, and he should play more minutes. I also think that Roby is an excellent play on both sides. Yeah, that you're taking away a lot with Bazley and Horford. We haven't really had too many of those games. The problem is, how much do they want to win this game? And also, why do we still not have a total on this game yet? That seems really weird to me. I know that we're waiting on.
I'm not sure who's playing.
We're waiting on Dort, but it makes you feel like there might be some more shenanigans in store. Yeah. Which would be really, really frustrating, because then it would just make the slate a one-game slate. But then I am more than happy also to overpay for Shea. Not really exactly overpaying, but I think Shea is a really solid play against this Bulls backcourt, and I'd like the idea of running he and LaVine, and then you can throw in either some combination of Roby, Pokusevski, and Moses Brown. And I think that you've got a nice little game stack there. I really like LaVine on the other side, and Satoransky's the other value on the slate that really stands out. So, between those, so you play Satoransky. I do also really like Denzel Valentine as a large field sleeper. I don't love him for big buy-in tournaments, or he's not going to be in my prime lineups, but he will be in my long shot tournaments. But I love LaVine at this price, and I think that it's a nice little run back with he and Shea. I also think Lauri Markkanen is on the verge of getting back to where he was. I mean, he's playing the minutes again. He's played 33, 32 minutes the last couple games. Hasn't had great production. He was 2 for 9 from 3 the last game, 4 for 12 overall, 8 for 18 before that. But I like the 18 shots. I think that he's a good play against the line. Nobody really matches up very well with him on the other side, and with the minutes being potentially in the low to mid 30s, potentially even. He's interesting to me as well. And then the last guy I'm going to mention this is the game you're going to want to get a lot of pieces of, obviously. I'm just going to keep taking little shots here and there on Patrick Williams, who I got a lot of crap for a tweet I made about him the other day, but I stand by it. I think that when they look back at this draft in a few years, that he'll either be the first or second best player, maybe the third. He reminds me very much of a young Kawhi, young Paul George. He's just very young, but he plays a ton of minutes. And even with all these guys like Porter and all them back, he's still playing decent minutes. And he put up 41 in his last game. He's going to have, hits and misses, but he's an interesting large field GPP play.
Do you like Thad Young at all?
Starting, I actually do like Thad Young. I didn't want to go nuts with him because the production sort of he's always in the same area, but this is the kind of slate where you need points, and he should have some. The Bulls also are playing to win. I also don't think the projection on Thad Young is enough. My guess is he'll start again alongside Markkanen, and they'll keep Kobe White on the bench along with Wendell Carter. So yeah, I do like him, but I don't think that he's like a must-have or anything like that.
Is this why Satoransky's been starting, right? He's
starting and Gary Temple's out. Those are the two reasons why he's been popping a little bit. He also put up 33 fantasy points his last game. It's funny because people don't think this about Satoransky, but he actually is a guy who's got a pretty high upside when he gets it going. But look, he's not going to play all the minutes. You don't want to have him in all your lineups or anything, but he is a guy you definitely want good amount of exposure to. And your pivot off of him, like I said, is Denzel Valentine.
Yeah. Is that good?
Denzel Valentine is the ultimate ceiling guy. I mean, he can come in and play 20 minutes and put up 40, you know. He's actually been consistently in the, you know, around 20 lately in limited minutes. It's not ideal. It's just the Bulls are trying to win games and they're willing to mess with the lineup to do it. The guys with the regular rotations in minutes, Valentine is one of them. The problem is that those minutes tend to stay right in that 20 range just because they have so many wings available right now with Otto Porter and all these guys. And I guess just mentioning that we should just keep an ear out for if we hear Otto Porter's good to go full minutes or something like that. Because if that happens, we might bump Otto Porter up a little bit here at 4,500.
You want to move on to New Orleans, Chicago? I do think that game that I mean, I have a feeling that you might be right in that that OKC, you might get some more news, and that game might fall apart a little bit, and fall apart with respect to like OKC availability, which would then make it, you know, I don't want to say one game slate, but it would certainly make it an elite game to target for sure.
Absolutely, that's for sure. All right, so the New Orleans Portland game is the highest total, what you would naturally gravitate and want to have the most interest in. I mean, it's hard not to like Zion here. You can say, look, he went 13 for 16 in his last game. He only had 36 fantasy points. Okay. Doesn't bother me any. He only had 2 rebounds. Okay. That happens. Only played 17 minutes the game before because of the blowout, and hasn't had the game since the All-Star break that we'd hoped for. I have no problem with going right back to him. I'm curious where the ownership ends up on him. I'm hoping it's lower. If it gets too high, I don't mind coming off of it. And I actually think that you could even consider Brandon Ingram on this particular slate, but it's not my favorite stuff. Ingram, Lonzo, Bledsoe, Hart, they're all guys who I have like 10 to 20% interest in. I don't have a huge feeling about prioritizing on them yet. And it's partially because of another guy who I'm considering, and that's Kira Lewis. I just really like this kid's game. This is a great matchup. I don't know how much they've been splitting up a little bit of too many of the minutes, you know, so it's hard to figure it out. But Lewis is part of the reason why he's been trending in the right direction. He sort of takes away from these other guards. You know, you look at his last minutes since the All-Star, 17, 22, 22, and 27. And if he's more in the 25, 26 range, you obviously are playing him. If he's at 20, I think he's still a long shot tournament play.
Yeah, they don't really tell you beforehand, right?
No, it's going to go depending on how the game goes. But to know that he has the upside to play the 28 is a nice thing. And he's their guy for the future more than these other guys are. So unless they keep trying to show Bledsoe off, which is definitely possible, Akira Lewis could end up stealing his minutes though. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, the one guy I would say that I would add to that New Orleans mix is a guy I just always seem to get some of, and that's Josh Hart.
Yeah, I mentioned him. He was the second guy I mentioned.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. I mentioned a lot of names, but he is I do like Josh Hart, and he's great in these kind of game environments too. His minutes should be pretty secure even with all that other stuff. So I actually think that he's probably a better play than probably should have spent more time.
He's showing very low ownership, at least to start off this late. So yeah, I like him. I you know what? I played Ingram the other day on Fanduel when he was really cheap, and he was smashing before the game blew out. But I will tell you that it's a little, I don't say frustrating, but it's kind of tough to get ceilings out of guys that really just need to shoot the ball and get a lot of real life points, you know? And you know, Ingram falls into some rebounds and like whatever, and he's long, so he'll get maybe a steal or two now and then, I guess. But whenever I watch him play, whenever I either need him to play or whatever, it just always seems as though he's like one of those guys that has like 30 real life points and like 34 fantasy points. You know,
it's too often. I agree. One thing is his assist numbers are pretty good though. Like it's the steals and blocks that he's just been non-existent. He turns the ball over and he's not rebounded this year. It's a very strange team because both he and Zion stand out as being way, way lower rebounding wise than they should be. Whereas a guy like Josh Hart is part of the reason why, I guess. But I mean, Josh Hart, I feel more secure about him having a chance at a double-double than I do these guys, which is weird.
I actually have another thing that I keep forgetting to mention. Now that we're talking about Ingram and now they're going on the road or whatever it is. And this is something that they used to talk about on one of the other sites like quite a bit. And I think it was Daily Roto actually, is that when it comes to getting like assists from New Orleans guys, for whatever reason, it could be like other teams too, but the New Orleans home score.
Oh yeah, this is the age-old narrative. Everybody's heard this one before.
Okay, but it was particularly to New Orleans, I think.
Yeah, that's largely attributed to people feeling like Rondo and specifically Anthony Davis got.
Oh, was that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where it all started from. It's been an ongoing narrative.
That's been a thing. Okay, I didn't just come up with that.
I don't know how, and it's only at home. It's only in home games.
Yes, that's what I meant. So the point is that Ingram maybe fell into some assists.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
In his 4 home games, but maybe on the it's now they're going on the road. It might not be quite as.
It's certainly possible that.
However, I will also say, again, same deal. He has a really, really good mid-range game, and Portland likes to draw people to the mid-range. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll bump him for that.
I like that point actually. It's very true. Am I crazy to think that maybe Lonzo's being underprojected in terms of production? Because I feel like he's a little like this is like a first elite matchup, and we know the Clippers game was a blowout, so we didn't get the full thing. Same thing with Cleveland. This team has been in a lot of blowouts. Minnesota was a blowout too. And then you had the 4-for-16 game against Miami. I think that Lonzo may be more in play than I gave him credit for at first. There's not a lot of great plays on his slate that you feel like you just need to have. There's a lot of guys who you feel like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do with my lineup or whatever. Let's talk about the Portland side, because with CJ coming back at what will be probably a minutes restriction. First of all, I want to know what the minutes restriction is, because I've heard this before and seen him go out there and play 32 minutes. But this is a pretty serious injury, so I'd imagine they'd be careful with him. I don't know. His price is the reason I say it is because it's nice to see CJ's price at 7,500. But mostly, I think that it's other than that, it's sort of we have the Cantor versus his old buddy Adams. They played on the OKC front line forever together. I don't really feel great about anybody from Portland except for taking some shots on Lillard, just because it's a great environment matchup for him. And Gary Trent.
I think Cantor's a very good and legitimate pivot off of Moses Brown on Fanduel, but not so much on DraftKings. And I got to do a little more work on what CJ McCollum being back will do to Lillard. Because New Orleans is giving up some pace. You know what I mean? So. Lillard was going to be a good play, but with McCollum back, even on a minutes restriction, I feel as though while some guys are like not say relishing, but some guys like to have it all on them, whatever it is. I think Lillard needs kind of a break, like getting run at by double teams the whole freaking season. I think he's going to be happy to cede some of the usage to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I got to do a little more work on that. I do think also that CJ being back, even on a minutes restriction, I think he does impact guys like Trent and
yeah, he does,
and Carmelo and you mentioned the other day you played Simmons.
Yeah. So my plan was, because Jokic was questionable, to play Hartenstein, and then I heard he was warming up, and it was Jokic and JaMychal Green were legitimately questionable. So that would have made Hartenstein, who didn't even play, wouldn't have played a minute if they don't play, probably playing 20 some odd minutes at minimum cost. So I had to have my best pivot at 3,100 to spend. And Simmons was the most logical based on the fact that they were playing Minnesota and the blowout upside, not to mention that it's literally the kind of game that he could go nuts in anytime, because Minnesota just doesn't play defense. But he didn't put up like a monster game, but he did end up getting there, I don't think tonight. I mean, they have more body. Like with McCollum back, I don't even know if Simmons is in tonight. I have him not on the list.
Yeah, I don't know. What I was going to say though is that is that CJ being back impacts him as well. So.
Yeah. I was just curious, but if he doesn't play any minutes, then you can open up the Gary Trent thing again.
Right.
I actually think Gary Trent's more likely to play alongside McCollum than Carmelo is. It just makes more sense. So I still think Gary Trent plays 30 minutes. I don't buy this 25-minute projection on him.
You want to finish up with the
so
this horror show?
Well, this is so Cat I think is like should be the priority, one of the priority plays of the slate. I love Rubio too. I like Anthony Edwards. Just looking at in terms of who I like the most.
So Anthony Edwards, just to throw it out there. So I played him in his last game, and when he smashed, and he was doing really, really well. And as they, in the third quarter, he went up and went up to the basket to draw a foul from Cantor, and he went up and he like basically ran into Cantor's like body with his ribs, and he like was like on the ground for like 10 minutes. Then they walked him off the court, and they thought that he's going to go to the locker room, and he took like 3 steps to the locker room, and instead he like turned around and he like just kind of sat on the bench. Even announced, "Oh my God, he's sitting on the bench at least. That's good news." I never for $1 million thought he would come back in the game, and he came back in the game and went off again. So I'll just throw that just little bit of info out there. I am of the belief that he's a little hurt, but that'll be my whatever. He's not chalk or anything like that, so it's nothing like great to fade. Like if he were going to be some guy who'd be like 5,300 on FanDuel or something, right. Coming off that game and like 60% owned, I'd probably play 0 of them, right. Just because of that. But I'll just kind of throw a bit out there.
Yeah.
My favorite guy is the guy who I kind of always play, and every time I think of not playing him, he just always seems to do well enough, and that's Vanderbilt. It's like, I don't know, he's like 2 cents on FanDuel. He's like, right, he's 3,900, and maybe I just avoid these. Maybe I'm just good at knowing when he's going to do okay, because I seem to avoid these games where he scores 9 points and gets 18, and
that's almost all of them. He almost never does anything.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'm just really fortunate that I just get him.
And I just want to point out most of the games, not last game, but most of the games he's gotten there, you've had a number of other these bodies.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
But I think I like him as a tournament play for sure. I mean, he's got the kind of game that lends itself to being good at tournaments. That it's just hard without the extended run ever being there, because you've got Jaden McDaniels. They're going to get Hernan-Gomez and Layman all minutes.
So I think Rubio is fine. He's, I guess, my favorite non-Cat Minnesota guy. And I'm not sure if he's as much of he's not going to be even that highly owned on FanDuel because of Moses Brown. But on draft, what is he on DraftKings, Cat? I'm talking about Cat.
Oh, 95.
Yeah, on DraftKings, again, it just takes up a center spot. He's especially with lowered a little bit on the fishy side. I think that he's definitely the priority spend. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear actually. I said this before last night's game, and I didn't listen to myself. I think I'm just kind of off LeBron for a while. I think he's in cruise mode. I think he's waiting for the playoffs mode. You're more the LeBron whisperer than I am.
We're gonna be on totally different pages on this one.
So I'm not into this MVP narrative. I'm not into any of it.
He's absolutely doing it. He's trying to do it. He stayed on the court up by 30 last night, so he could get.
I saw that. It was just stupid.
Well, there you go, though. I mean, you want to talk about guys who are playing for something like that? He absolutely is.
We'll see.
Now we are seeing. I mean, like it's last night. If that doesn't prove it, last night nothing's going to. He stayed on the court an extra 5 minutes of playing time because to get his triple double. Literally, that's what he did. There was no reason for him to be out there. None whatsoever, especially on a back-to-back. It was absolutely just because he demanded to be out there to get his triple-double.
I'll tell you what. I'll make you a deal.
Yeah.
Next 60 he gets, just kind of wake me up from my coma.
You don't need 60 from him tonight.
You don't?
No. Look at all these other names we just mentioned. You know, if we're going to compare guys, I mean, first of all, he's going to be the chalk, just so maybe then there's a reason to fade him. He's definitely going to project as the best play on the slate in terms of raw number of points. It's a great matchup, as good as they come. I think he probably smashes tonight. I will definitely have LeBron and Cat lineups together. There are guys I like in the 9K range that I can get away from LeBron and play. But I'm having to get away from him because he's going to be chalky. Like, I really think he's going to be really, really chalky. And I think that there is a chance that Damian Jones gets a few extra minutes tonight. He actually got some last night, some extra minute run because of the blowout against the Minnesota. I don't think we need that 3K, but I'm just throwing it out there because against Cat, Harold doesn't exactly, match up all that well. He's not going to play as many minutes. So there should be some minutes that go to him. Maybe they'll put Markieff Morris on him though. I'm just trying to figure out how that situation works. But having said that, I do like Harold. Like, I actually think Harold, even in limited minutes, probably will be effective in this matchup. Everybody always smashes against Cat. I want all of these. I mean, I like to target Minnesota on the back-to-back. I'm going to go back to the other guys too, where I want value. I'll go back to KCP and THT. I don't think you play those kind of guys together, but I know KCP was hot shooting last night, but he only played 20 minutes and he would have played 30 plus probably had the game been reasonably close. So both those guys, awesome plays for me for value. But I don't know how much value we really are going to end up needing with all the other guys we like. I mean, LeBron being the only true spend up that I really like. And yeah, I prefer LeBron over Trey and Lillard, but Lillard is a good argument. They're actually kind of closer, but my plan is to have exposure to all these guys. And then I'm going to go right back to the guy who he would have smashed and he was on his way to, he was playing a great game. Kuzma last night at like 2% ownership, and Kuzma now back to back, 34, 45 and 49. And then you get Minnesota coming in. Kuzma feels like an absolutely great play that hasn't been starting. People are afraid of that for some reason. It means absolutely nothing. It actually is better for him. He does it less LeBron time on the court, more time with the backup units. I am very, very into Kyle Kuzma tonight. So he's my.
So this is going to be the NBC. This is going to be #NBA. Okay. So you know what I'm noticing? You know what I notice on the DraftKings slate right here?
What's that?
I see something next to LeBron James's name that I haven't seen like all year.
No,
you know what that is?
No Q-tag.
Nothing. Right. No Q-tag. So he's going to sit.
No way.
At 10:15.
I'll tell you guys right now, unless he gets injured, there is a 0.0% chance of that happening. If you guys don't buy into LeBron's things, he's pretty clear about what he's going to do with his. Like, they had a hard time getting him to sit the last game before the All-Star break on a back-to-back after playing 39 minutes. I just cannot imagine a world in which LeBron sits here, especially at home. I don't know. I don't see that happening, but it is pretty funny that he doesn't have the
very NBA. That's all.
You're right. 100%. I think LeBron is going to have a big game tonight, actually.
And what happens if it's right now, there's no tag, and what happens if like later in the day, they put a GTD on his thing?
Then it's a little nerve wracking.
Right.
But I haven't seen anything that makes me think that. I mean, he's still.
No, I haven't either. I don't know. It's a back-to-back against like a terrible team. I don't know.
Well, they're not going to beat this terrible team, probably. I mean, you could argue that without him, they've been the worst team.
I keep forgetting that
they've been getting. They got like smoked. Although it helps to have Schroeder back, but like, I mean, they did win the one though. They won the one game without either he or Schroeder, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess LeBron's a good player.
As much as I mean, look, do you need to spend 10-5 today? Probably not. If you're going to spend it, I think that LeBron is the guy you're spending on today. Is my.
I mean, and to be quite honest, I mean, he's probably the. And maybe he is the priority even over Cat. I mean,
you just play them together. It's a great little combination.
It has to be. Yeah, it is, right?
I love that combination personally. I also like Schroeder. I like everybody on the Lakers, by the way. Not a shocker against Minnesota. So I will be playing a lot of these later games and adjust my lineups in case news does come up, because we do know that that's possible in the COVID era. I really like that you brought up the KCP thing last night, Sheets, because it I mean, look, I know it's not just that he scored 26 fantasy points or whatever, but just the fact that everybody else was playing all this speculative value, why wouldn't we play the guy we know is going to play? And he didn't play 30 minutes, but that's only because they blew him out. But we know he's going to be out there. His plan is to play 30 minutes, basically, 28 to 34. So KCP and THT are both very, very high plays to me if you're going to use the thin value. But honestly, tonight's slate, you don't need to dumpster dive. So I would be trying to do it with guys with upside. And both of them have, 30 plus upside. Obviously, THT put up 41 last night. So, yeah, but I think Kuz is the way that you might be able to get different. I don't think he's going to be popular. And I really like playing him. No one ever plays him.
Okay.
All right. So real quick, we should do FanDuel.
Yeah, we can scoot over to FanDuel. Let me just get my sheet over there. Hold on a minute. One sec. Okay, you want to start off at point guard?
Yes. Point guard is pretty straightforward. It's going to be Simmons and Rubio for me, with some Trae Young. And not maybe I do actually, I didn't mention him before, but I still kind of like Noel, the way they're using him in Minnesota, and I think he's got some talent. So 4,500 it's reasonable, but I think Simmons, Rubio, and Trae Young is where you start.
Yeah, I think that if I still want to look at that Lillard because he is still pretty, semi-affordable over here.
Yep.
I have to just see what's going on with that. And who did you mention aside from Simmons?
Trae Young and Rubio.
Yeah, so the other guy that I will mention more value-ish is Satoransky, and also Jaylen Noel.
Yeah, I mentioned him.
Oh, you mentioned Noel. Oh, okay, sorry.
But I agree about Lillard. That's a good point about Lillard. He's a guy we should consider over here. Another guy who's frustrating on FanDuel because the reason his price stays down, I'm just going to look at it real quick. I mean, he just does so little defensively, no blocks, no steals, like literally has like no upside from that angle. So, we saw it with Luka last night though. Luka still put up, what did he put up? Almost 60 FanDuel points without, I guess 60. He had a couple, 60. Yeah, 60. And he had a couple, he got 2 steals, but he also had 7 turnovers, which canceled out the steals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like Simmons. I think Simmons is the main one. And then Trae Young and Rubio are the next two, about the same for me.
So at shooting guard, for me, it's there's just 3 sort of classes of plays. Like, so at the top, I think Shea is a kind of an elite play that the entire universe is going to play. I think I like Oladipo in that game at 7,700. And then if you want to go all the way down, again, depending on who's playing, who's whatever. Ty Jerome's only 3,900, and if you want to do that. And then the other guy I mentioned from that first game is Clarkson.
Yeah, I think Quickly is the best play at shooting guard.
Okay. I forgot about that.
Along with Shea, Oladipo, and Levine. If you feel you need to pay all the way down, I don't mind trying THT or Reggie Bullock. Those would be my other guys.
What's Quickly again today?
He's 52.
Yeah.
Remember he did go 6 of 19 last night too.
So that's not going to be, he's not going to get benched.
Anthony Edwards deserves it. No. I don't mean like that. No, they played well. They fought hard. That was a game they were down twice by 1 million points, and they almost came back and beat the Nets. A very spirited game. I think Quickly is probably going to get the run tonight.
Yeah, you could, like I said, you could go back to Taylor Horton Tucker. You just mentioned that.
Yeah, but and then KCP, Horton Tucker, and Reggie Bullock should all be in similar ranges, but with THT.
Yeah, Quickly's tough. Yeah, he's gonna give me another tough fade again today.
Yeah, but the guy I didn't mention. Well, right back to our guy Alec Burks.
Yep.
All right, next one.
What do we got? Small forward next.
Yep.
So a couple of cheapies that you had mentioned. KJ Martin at 3,500. I guess that's the best of the cheap. Oh man, Bogdan at 3,800.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's probably worth. We should probably. Oh, Bogdan. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Bojan. Sorry.
Bogdan at 3,800.
That doesn't surprise me. I thought you said Bogdan. I'm thinking of the Bogdanovic. I was like, wow.
Then I suppose LeBron, right?
And LeBron. Yeah, I think that it's the Houston guys. Yeah, I think you should be playing Martin and Porter, and if you're playing cash games, you should be playing Martin and Porter, in my opinion.
Oh, really? You rather that than LeBron?
Well, I mean, it's not rather. It's just it's these guys are.
It sort of is rather, right? I mean,
well, you're not playing LeBron, but I haven't mentioned anybody at 10K yet, and
okay.
I don't think I'm going to. I don't think there is anybody else at 10K. So
I guess not, huh?
So it's just a different type of build, but
except for Jimmy Butler at 11K.
Brandon, there's your hero play. The problem is with making plays like that is people actually do it. Other people do it. So don't get, Josh Hart's fine. LeBron, Brandon Ingram,
Porter,
Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin's the one you kind of have to.
I think so.
Yeah, it's just a little ridiculous. Power forward. Pretty easy one too, I think.
It's Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not so easy, is it?
No, well, I actually think there's another guy who's easier than Bradley for me, but I'm in a different.
Like Zion, you mean?
No, Roby and Poku.
Interesting. Yeah, but like the two of them, one will probably take from the other. No,
not exactly. Poku, don't look at the position. The guy is like a freaking guard.
He's a thin guy, right?
He weighs like 100 pounds. Oh, I just like Tobias Harris makes a lot of sense over here. By the way, he's cheaper and this position isn't loaded, so getting his straight 40 might be good enough. But Zion is the obvious spend up, I would say.
You could watch for Capella news. Like if he sits again, Collins remains a good play.
Yes. Oh, Collins would be a tremendous play if Capella's out. So that's a good point. And I didn't even. Wow, that's weird. His projection. I actually like him with Capella, even with Capella out. I mean, Capella in.
Yeah.
He's definitely a reasonable play, especially in this matchup. He could just go nuts. Oh, one other. I mean, wow, this position's actually a little deeper than I thought it was at first glance. Lauri Markkanen's 5,500. That's kind of interesting.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And also your guy. I already mentioned Kuzma on the other side, but your guy. Who was it?
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vanderbilt at minimum cost or near minimum cost, and look, even Julius Randle is affordable over here, and 9,800 on DraftKings is very different than 9,200 on Fanduel. He could win the position. Are we maybe missing out though by not just playing like Tatum is sort of always he's like always gets 40 anyway, and when they might need a little more from him tonight, and no one's going to play him against Utah, if that's really going to be the case, maybe we should be playing a little bit more Bam.
Bam.
I'm sorry, Bam. Tatum.
Oh, okay.
You know what got me confused? Tatum and Tate also stand out a little bit. This is actually way more guys than I had on my original list when I looked through it again. There's a lot of stuff to be okay with over here, I feel like.
What is Zach LaVine's price on Fanduel?
Isn't he 94, I believe?
Gotta be pretty expensive, right?
I think 94. Yeah, 94. You play him and Shea though, and you can play him and Shea at shooting guard.
I know.
That works out nicely. All right, centers. Other than Moses Brown.
I mentioned this earlier. I mean, like if you want to pivot off of him, I mean, you could play Enes Kanter's very affordable at 6,200.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, and then there's always Cat. I mean, sure.
Yeah, if Capella plays, it's Capella for me.
Okay.
And I think he's gonna. I mean, it's his old team, man, and they really did get rid of him. But Cat and Capella, if Capella plays, and then I would have Brown further down the list over here, and Kanter. I actually think Kanter is probably a better play, all things considered. Than even though it's not a great matchup for him, it's his old buddy. He should be able. Let me see what he did last time they played each other. I know that Adams didn't play that much.
The other thing I was going to say, by the way, is that as much as I thought it was going to be as huge chalk that Moses Brown was going to have a tough matchup against Joval, I think he's going to have just the exact opposite today.
Yep.
I mean, like he's very skinny. He's not very, he's not that strong. So it's, he's not going to get beat up by any of that Chicago stuff. Though.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is there a chance maybe we should be talking just really quickly about Dwight Howard? I know that they're splitting the minutes somewhat, but I mean,
what is he on FanDuel?
He's 52. It feels like a lot, but like you talk about a guy who can have a ceiling for this, like he can put up 45 still. He just did it.
You could say the same thing about Olynyk.
Yeah, but Olynyk's been doing that without Bam. That's the reason he's been going nuts.
Oh, Bam's back.
Yeah, Bam's back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Patton probably deserves some consideration also, considering they keep getting smoked and he's losing minutes, yet he's still getting like 5x. So those would be my mid-tier guys, I guess, but mostly it's going to be spending up for Cat or trying to get Capella if he's in.
And we don't like. Who's always cheap on FanDuel, but I guess it's not anymore. What's Larry Nance on FanDuel?
He's I think 54.
He usually is like really. Remember all those times when he was like super cheap on FanDuel?
Yeah, but those times he was like 68. And that was cheap because compared to what he was. It's weird that what is his?
Oh, because there was no love and no anybody.
Oh, and they made him a small forward now. Ugh. I really like Larry Nance though, and he's a great FanDuel player because he gets blocks and steals.
Yeah.
So.
All right,
guys. We'll be with you at 6:30 Eastern. And Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
No, we're good. Keep it rolling.
All right. Good luck to everybody out there, and hopefully we'll see you at the top of leaderboards again.